In 1999, a construction site excavated a building foundation. They dug out a pile of rotten tables, chairs, lamps, and bags. In short, they were so rotten that they couldn't tell what was inside. A security guard named Cao Kun saw someone walking back and forth on the construction site in the middle of the night and thought he was stealing. Cao Kun walked up and called him. The man was wearing a brown leather jacket. After turning around, he smiled exaggeratedly. His teeth were very white and bright, and then he waved his fingers at his eyes, and there was a snapping sound from his mouth. Cao Kun's eyes suddenly hurt so much that he fell to the ground. He was then sent to the hospital by other security guards. A day later, his entire head was rotten. On June 27, 1999, a 38-year-old man named Niu Chengel reported to the police that a girlfriend he had just met was riding a bicycle home on the road. And then a man passed by her, made a pistol shape with his fingers, waved it at her chest, and there was a snapping sound from his mouth. Then he drove away on his motorcycle. His girlfriend was a retired soldier, and she was wearing a retired military uniform. At first, there was only a small yellow spot on the left front. After returning, her girlfriend's left chest began to fester and bleed, and it was so serious that her entire heart and lungs rotted away, and she died after failed treatment. According to his recollection, the man was very thin, of medium height, with very yellow skin, protruding eyes, a very flat nose, and a brown military cap on his head. He wore a brown leather jacket and brown boots, and especially when he smiled, his mouth was full of neat white teeth. Just one day after he reported the case, another traffic control officer fell to the ground after intercepting a motorcycle driver who ran a red light. The traffic control officer died in the hospital that night. According to his recollection, the driver smiled at him, and then his mouth was full of bright white teeth. He asked the other party to show his driver's license, but the other party used his fingers to make a pistol shape towards his throat, and there was a snapping sound from his mouth. He felt pain in his throat, and the other party walked away. He took out the walkie-talkie, but he couldn't speak. He was injected into the intensive care unit that night, and then his entire neck was ulcerated and bleeding until it broke into two parts and the head and body were separated. Later, we began to round up the driver. Several armed personnel surrounded the suspect near the Yellow River Road and shot him. Then they tied him up tightly with a zipper, put him in the car, and escorted him back. It was the evening of July 7th. The last time the escort car talked to the headquarters was at 11:30. The captain of the squad said that everything was fine, we had caught the prisoner, and we would return in 15 minutes. Then the voice of interrogation came from the walkie-talkie. "What's your name? What rank do you have? You dare to arrest me? I'm a captain and company commander. Let me go quickly. The person I am looking for is a very confidential matter, otherwise I would not have waited for so many years." Another person shouted, "Don't play tricks anymore, or I will shoot you to death when I get old." At this time, only a popping sound was heard from the walkie-talkie, which lasted for more than 10 times. Then the communication was interrupted. That night, the car disappeared. 3 days later, someone reported that a cart was found in a very desolate place beside the Crescent River. The inside of the car was horrible. All the people were ulcerated and their bodies were incomplete. There were 5 people in total, but there was no body of the suspect. Everyone conducted a carpet search. The area within a radius of 10 kilometers was full of river beaches and bushes, and there was no blood. Finally, police dogs were brought in and started searching. Finally, a pile of leather clothes and binding belts were found in an abandoned concrete bunker by the river. But there was nothing on the ground, not even a body. The only proof was that there were bullet holes on the leather clothes, which were shot by law enforcement officers.